gentlemen, welcome to Pro Wrestling Talk with Bear and BDuB. This is to my left is Bear. I'm BDuB, also known as Brian. This is Clifford. Now, I'm gonna come right off, going right at you guys. Pro Wrestling Roundtable. Guys who claim they've been watching wrestling, what is it, 23 years, 19 years?
102.
Exactly. Knowledge of, when it comes to wrestling, IQ probably 1. That's just the bottom line. You know, as Jericho said, would you please shut the hell up? Guys don't know what you're talking about. WrestleMania moments, Hogan versus Andre. Clifford, just give them an insight. What we know about Hogan versus Andre?
Before I start, I've been a fan since I was 6 years old, and in December, I'll be 30. I think that qualifies me to know a little bit about wrestling, past to present, and even where it's going in some way, shape, or form.
Exactly.
To give you like a little story about how all this came about, I was on YouTube and I was listening to some of that commentary, and one of them said that, you know, Hogan and Andre should rank number 3 as one of the greatest matches in wrestling history. And when I heard that, my stomach started hurting, and I thought it was gas at first, but then I realized that it was what this guy said. Hogan versus Andre is in the top 3.
Right.
And I didn't understand how a person who's been watching wrestling for 20-some years sits and says that, you know, Hogan and Andre, who have been wrestling in the Mid-South for Crockett down there and over in Japan. As a matter of fact, if you get Hulk Hogan's DVD, one of the first matches on there is Hogan against Andre down in Crockett. Classy Freddie Blassie was his manager and on that match.
And didn't Hogan wear a robe back then? If I'm not mistaken.
Did he wear
the robe?
Yeah, he was wearing a robe.
He was a heel.
He was a heel, and he body slammed in. I understand that it was a much bigger match when they got in New York and they got with Vince, but I mean, you know, you've seen it. I've seen it about 15 times where he done slammed Andre and got the reaction out of the crowd. I just didn't think that was a WrestleMania match worth naming. It really wasn't even a good match. It really wasn't even a good match. And they used the word moment when they said it, and when they said it, I felt like it was necessary for me to go and find out the definition of the word moment, and the definition of the word moment is a particular period of importance, influence, or significance in a series of events or developments. How in the world is Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 3 important or significant to that event? We all know that Andre, he really put those 93,000 people in there.
Right.
Hogan was selling out all over the place. Andre put those people in there. We already know the match that stole the show.
Oh, definitely.
Savage and Steamboat, which was a classic. You know, it's a shame they had to be for the Intercontinental title instead of the heavyweight title. But I don't see that as a moment. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I'm sure if they see this, you know, I'll be everything in the book. But you know, I felt as though they were wrong, and it was about time a change came. And Pro Wrestling Talk with Bear and BDuB, we're here to set that standard and raise the bar, and really show these guys that, okay, you say you've been fans for 20-some plus years. We come to put you to the test.
Yeah. You know, like Bear, I've been a fan literally all my life. You know, I'll give you a story that you can quote my mother on it, find her on Facebook and ask her. She said when she was pregnant with me and she couldn't change the channel, when Vince McMahon would come up and say, "Welcome to the World Wrestling," at that time, Federation, her stomach would start, she would feel me start kicking. Ever since then, I've been watching wrestling, haven't stopped and won't stop. So, like Bear, I know what I'm talking about, you know. What we're going to do, we're going to give you our WrestleMania matches, you know. We're going to start from 20 and number 2. And Bear will tell you why we're not going to name a number 1 match.
All right. My first match, which would be number 20, would have to be the main event of WrestleMania 1. WrestleMania 1 was built solely around Hogan, Mr. T, Piper, Orndorff, Muhammad Ali was there, a couple other people, but you know, a lot of matches on there really don't get talked about. So because that was the main event in the first match, that's why I felt. Not so much because of the match, even though it was a good match. I don't think anyone expected Mr. T to be able to do a hip toss or do a body slam, you know, anything like that. But it was a good match. Rowdy Piper and Paul Orndorff, in my opinion, made the match. But it was a good match, and that's why it's number 20 on my list.
Yeah, you know, I'm with him. I agree. That being number 20 match. Just because, you know, it was the first main event of the greatest spectacle of sports entertainment, bottom line. You know. Number 19, what you got?
My number 19 match is a tag team match. The Brainbusters against Strike Force from WrestleMania 5. And as I was making this list, I thought to myself that some of the greatest matches at WrestleMania just weren't single matches. They were also tag matches as well. Arn and Tully, whether it's the Brainbusters or whether it's the Four Horsemen, they were able to take their opponents and make their opponents better than what they was making in the ring. At this point in his career, Tito, he was kind of coasting, you know, had little matches on Superstars, going against jobbers. Rick Martel, former AWA heavyweight champion, and they kind of got together. Okay, I don't, for the Wrestling Roundtable, if you guys know this or not, but Rick Martel was actually he was already a part of a tag team with Tom Zink, who will later be called the Z-Man.
In WCW.
Right. And if the Roundtable is watching, you should already know what the name of that tag team was. But I'm pretty sure you don't. So for the benefit of those with flash photography, the name of the tag team was the Can-Am Connection. But Tom Zink wound up leaving, and they threw Tito in there to make him a team. But the Brainbusters really made this a match, and in a lot of ways I feel like when Vince McMahon said, okay, I got Demolition here, who would be a good tag team to really give them a run for their money, keep Demolition a face, and have that good heel? And it was obvious he had no choice but to go with the Brainbusters. So because the Brainbusters were a good team and they were able to really put Strike Force on that next level, that's why I got that as my number 19 match.
Yeah, me, number 19, kind of came more into the modern era, and I went with Undertaker versus Batista. The reason why I went with that match was because when you put, alright, Batista was the World Heavyweight Champion, Undertaker was going for his first championship match, and, you know, this was WrestleMania 23. No, WrestleMania 20, was it 23? Yeah, 23. And this is the first time Undertaker went for a title match in 10 years. And, you know, the match between him and, you know, Sid Justice, Psycho Sid, whatever you want to call him, really wasn't that good. But this one between him and Batista, they put it at the mid-card. And for those who know, when they found out that they was at the mid-card, they said, we got work to do. And they tore the roof off that place. The main event of that evening was Triple H and John Cena.
No, that was John Cena and Shawn Michaels.
You're right, I'm sorry, you're right. That was Cena and Michaels. And that match just couldn't measure. I remember now, you know, I remember falling asleep to the match personally. But Undertaker and Batista, they went at it, and everybody knew the Undertaker's streak wasn't going to end against Batista. But the Undertaker still, he carried Batista because, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, Batista's not that great of a wrestler. He had two great WrestleMania matches, but with him and Undertaker, with him and Triple H, both of his opponents carried him. So, you know, that's the reason why that's my number 19 WrestleMania match.
Yeah, I think the only good thing about the match, Mania 13 with Undertaker instead was seeing Undertaker come back out in the black and gray.
Oh, definitely. That was a classic right there. You know, after so many years of black and purple and then all black, you know, it symbolized,
the black and gray.
You know, him going back.
My number 19 match is the Hart Foundation and the British Bulldogs. WrestleMania 3. Danny Davis was there. Forget who else was there, part of that British Bulldog
I forgot
team.
too.
Boy, can't even come into mind to me. But I think this kind of started like the whole Canadian invasion of the WWF. Also, and I want to say this too, WrestleMania 3 also embarked and changed the way wrestlers were looked at, because up to that point, wrestlers were still larger than life. They were monsters, big guys, and big muscles, and all this that thing. Hogan and Andre, and you know, and there's others, Hillbilly Jim and King Kong Bundy, and all of that. But the Hart Foundation and the British Bulldogs in Mania 3, now you got athletic guys that can really pick up the pace, pick up the tempo. And I think that started there. So number 19 on my list, Hart Foundation, British Bulldogs. 18.
That's on my list too. But I'm gonna give my opinion when we get further down, because I like, that was a great match. But I'll talk more about that. My 18th match was Hogan and Slaughter, where the country was at a time of, it was the Gulf War. I'm not really,
the Gulf War.
Yeah, it was the Gulf War.
Desert Storm.
And for those who know, which I know Bear knows, but those who know, the match was really supposed to be at an outside arena, but because Andre had played the role of a U.S. turncoat, they couldn't afford. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm glad you said something. Sergeant Slaughter had played the role of a U.S. turncoat. They couldn't afford to do it because it was a lot of threats. Slaughter was receiving threats at his home. They even wanted him to, as an act, set the American flag on fire, but he said, no, I will not do that. So, you know, they said Hogan's...
he had to walk around, bulletproof vest, he went to restaurants, they wouldn't serve him all that.
Yeah, so that was, you know, and the match, if people realize, that was the first time Hogan actually bled at a WrestleMania, and which might not be significant, but the match itself was like, it was war, you know. Hogan, Slaughter, the title was on the line. Hogan had to win that match. They might have right. So like I said, you know, that's my 18th match. Moving on to 17.
My number 17 match, I have the Ultimate Warrior, Randy Savage, WrestleMania 7 career-ending match. It's my number 17 match on a lot of different levels. The first level is because if Randy Savage would have been in that match with anybody else, that match would have been off the charts. Had Hogan been fighting Mr. Perfect or the Big Boss Man or another heel at that WrestleMania 7 time, this match might have stole the show. Only because of Randy. At this time in Randy's career, and while I'm thinking about it, you know, I'll probably hear something from the round table about this, but you know, we got our own round table, so yeah. From 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7, Randy Savage had the best matches of all of them. My opinion.
Yeah.
My opinion. And Randy Savage was a very, what's the word I want to say? He was more concerned, more so about timing and being in the right place when he was good. And Warrior, Savage, WrestleMania 7, career on the line. Warrior told a good story with his outfit. I remember him having on the trunks, and the trunks saying it means more than this, and he had the title on there. And Randy Savage, along with Sensational Sherry, told a very good story. And I think the best part about the match is when Savage goes up and he gives him the elbow drop 5 times, Warrior still kicks out. Then he gorilla presses Savages and splashes, and Savage kicks out. And then Warrior's looking up like, You know, is it meant for me to leave? Looking at his hand, but I don't know. But he winds up coming back in, and 3 tackles later, steps on him and beats him. And it almost wasn't dominating from a Warrior perspective, but it was a good match. I think everybody kind of knew it was going to be a good match because it was the only match until Warrior got in WCW where he didn't run to the ring. He walked.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, number 17, and like I said, because it was Warrior in there, that's why I have it number 17. It was a good match, very good match from beginning to end, even at the end when, you know, him and Elizabeth fall back in love and all that other crap. But good match, good psychology. The crowd was in it the whole way through. Even at the very end when him and Elizabeth got back together and you see people crying, Bobby Heenan had that classic line, maybe her shoes too tight or something like that. But good match. It was just a shame that it was Warrior. If it was somebody like Bret Hart or Mr. Perfect, somebody that was athletic like Macho Man was, it would have been higher up. But because Warrior, I mean, we all knew that Warrior wasn't a very good wrestler.
He's in it for the money.
Yeah, and
he'll tell you that.
Yeah, so
it was just the way
that's why I have it number 17. But good match. It made my top 20 songs.
Yeah, my 17th was Mysterio versus Angle versus Randy Orton. A lot of people might not agree. I would tell you why I like that match and the reason why I put it up here. Because it showed that, now, honestly, because of the term World Heavyweight Champion, and then you put a light heavyweight and make him your World Heavyweight Champion. Especially because, yeah, I know, but you know, Rey Mysterio, out of all people, to me,
he only got the belt.
We know because he died. We know that. But at the same time, you know, for that match where I'm trying to remember the ending, you know, he hits the 619.
The Frankenstein off the rope and he pins Randy Orton.
Right, but something happened before. I can't remember. But to me, it was just something about this match that like I always enjoyed it. You know, when I go back and look at it, just to see Rey Mysterio finally get over there, and that might go into a WrestleMania moment, but to see, you know, him finally get his just due, because the guy was a hard worker from his days of the WCW. You know, when he was in the LWO and then the faction with Conan. So it was like finally Rey Mysterio gets his just due.
I think it'll always be cheated because everybody will say he got the belt because of Eddie, and because him and Eddie was so close. The match was originally supposed to be just Ray and Kurt Angle. I think that would have been a better match.
Oh yeah.
Kurt could have really worked with Ray.
Well, Ray's a good wrestler though.
Yeah,
you know, so they would have.
But them throwing Randy Orton in there, I think, was to kind of just give it that heel, that person. That's kind of putting it out there. Like, the only reason why you're here is because of Eddie. So, but, you know, I understand your opinion.
Yeah.
Much like the round table got theirs. But unlike, you know, your opinions, I'm going to prove all their stuff. It's just boom.
Let's go into 16.
No real reasoning behind this next match. It was just a good match. I remembered it. I don't know if anybody can remember a fat, blonde Ozzy Osbourne, but he was there. And it was just the Bulldogs against the Dream Team. For those that don't know the Dream Team, it was Ray, the Hammer Valentine, Brutus Beefcake. Just a good match. They really, Valentine being slow, you know, it took him like 45 minutes before he even got warmed up in a match because he was so slow. Valentine, I mean, Beefcake was a good heel back then. I remember some of his matches with Hulk Hogan back then. He was a good heel, and the Bulldogs were just exciting back then. They were on fire back then. So it was a good match. Not a whole lot of story behind that. Just a real good match. It's my number 16.
My 16, just Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit. I'm going to just summarize it. Perhaps definitely the top 5, well, perhaps the top 5, definitely top 10 greatest technical wrestlers, you know, in the modern era. And you put them in a WrestleMania match, you know, you treat it with a great, you know.
Now, let me ask you this. Now, do you think their WrestleMania match was better than the one I think they had at that Royal Rumble.
That's what I was going to say. No, it wasn't, because that one, you just didn't know who was going to win. This one, you didn't know, but it wasn't a lot of kickouts and non-tap outs. That one at the Royal Rumble was just off the charts, probably the best of that year. You got?
My 15 was, I think, your number 18.
Yeah.
Mine was Hulk Hogan, Sergeant Slaughter. I think this match deserved to be in the countdown. It should be in anybody's countdown, because it was one of the rare times where Vince went into reality.
You're right.
He
stepped out of the box.
He stepped out of the box. He went into reality, and at a time when, again, Hogan was selling out venues. If I could probably ask Vince, man, I would say, did you have to go that route? And I'm pretty sure he would say no, but just because everybody was so full of patriotism, I think I said that right. Patriotism. Thank you.
Remember they changed the WrestleMania logo to red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
The ropes were red, white, and blue.
And everybody was patriotic and this whole thing, and then you got this guy who was, big in cartoons, all this stuff here, and Sergeant Slaughter was an American heavyweight champion, and you bring him in, and he's a sympathizer for the Iraqi people. It just made everything so good. And again, he was one of those guys that could make Hogan. Even with the guys at the round table, if they're not too stuck on their own egos to admit, Hogan never really made a lot of people. A lot of people made Hogan. And Sergeant Slaughter falls under that mold. And like you said before, it was war. Blood and cheer shots and spitting on people. And it was the first time I can remember sitting, looking at wrestling, and he drops him with the leg, 1, 2, 3, and that was my first pop.
Okay.
That match was my first pop. Hearing it and seeing it, and I remember how everybody's reaction was when we watched it at the house, and good match. I don't think it was the greatest match,
right,
but as far as from a storytelling perspective, and Sergeant Slaughter did a good job with that character, and to go through what he went through. He deserved to be champion, and I think they told a good story. So, number 15.
And my 15 is the match in which that finally Randy Savage got his just due and became the WWE champion when that tournament, when he defeated Ted DiBiase in WrestleMania 4. He was, always, when he became a face, he was outshadowed by Hogan, because Hogan was the big guy, the, say your prayer, the idolizer, the ones that us kids idolized at that time. So now it was like Savage was finally getting his turn, getting his chance to run with the belt. Because like you said, obviously was a way better wrestler than Hogan.
Yeah.
Put on better matches. And, that was a good match in my opinion. You also had the two big icons of face and heel on the outside in their corner, with Hulk and Andre, and that Hogan coming in to interfere to hit DiBiase with the chair, and then Savage like, oh no, is this about to happen? I just got to drop the elbow and I'm the champ. He becomes champion, So
now let me ask you this: do you think that it could always be said that match isn't one? And granted, again, I know this is your opinion.
Yeah.
But do you think that match could always be said to be tainted only because at that time Hogan was going off to do no holds barred, and they needed someone to hold that belt? Because I'll always say, well, okay, Savage did a good job, don't get me wrong, holding the belt, but he never really defended it. He defended it in SummerSlam was a tag match with him and Hogan against Andre and DiBiase. Survivor Series, tag match. Royal Rumble, By this point in time, he's already in that feud with Hogan to lead him into WrestleMania 5. Hogan, during that time, you know, he was off doing the movie. So do you think that kind of takes away from the Savage victory?
A little bit, but, you know, it was the first, you know. Obviously, his title win down the line was a better one, which I'll get to, you know. But, yeah, I see what you're going with that one. I would agree.
Okay.
And what you got for 14?
14, involving the same person. Involving the same person, Randy Savage, but his match with Ric Flair, to me, just wonderfully done. It was just a good match. Ric Flair antagonizing him, saying that he was involved with Miss Elizabeth.
Oh, yeah.
The digital pictures, the digital photos.
And she's wearing nothing but staples.
Right, and all this, that, and the third. And, yeah, that was a good match. And probably one of Randy Savage's best at WrestleMania outside of Ricky Steamboat, who will come up on this list, I guarantee you.
It outshined Hawks and Sid Justice at the time.
Yeah, it did.
Main event match.
It did. Randy Savage and Ric Flair was 10 times better.
And that was the first time a WrestleMania WWE Championship match was held as an undercard.
Yeah, and it stole the show. I ain't gonna say it stole the show, but it was just so much more better than Hogan and Sid. I think Bret and Rowdy Piper stole the show because no one expected it. I mean, again, 20 plus years, you know, the best part of that Hogan Sid match is seeing Warrior come out because no one knew that Warrior was going to be there.
Yeah.
And I've even heard, you know, shows and documentaries where they said that no one knew that he was there.
Right.
Not even the wrestlers.
Yeah.
The only person I knew was like Vince. So, but Randy Savage, Ric Flair, good. I mean, it was one of those matches where the promos were even good.
Oh yeah, most definitely. You guys were two of the best talkers in the game.
The promo that Perfect and Flair did before that match was good. Then the ones after.
This is yours.
Take it and go. They were just good. So yeah, that made my list as number 14.
Yeah, my 14 is Hogan and Warrior, and like you said, I know you're not a big Hogan fan. I know that. I'm a much bigger Hogan fan than Warrior was. Hogan is my ultimate childhood superhero. I enjoyed this
Hogan
match.
used to scare me as a kid. When he came up that distorted screen and they would play Thriller and my mom will tell y'all that.
Yeah, Hogan was, you know, Hogan and Warrior the match, you know, because the first time in WrestleMania you see two first baby faces go at it, title for title, Intercontinental title versus the WWE title. I enjoyed the match personally, you know, watching the crisscross. Know a lot of people know it's not the most technical wrestling, but me personally, I enjoyed the match, and that's enough on that. What's your 13?
My number 13 goes back to WrestleMania 8. I just talked about it, Bret and Rowdy Piper.
Yeah.
Just at that time, I think it had marked, it was 13 years before Rowdy Piper had his shoulders pinned to the mat. Bet you guys at the round table didn't know that. But yeah, and he's in the ring with the guy who, and in my opinion, and this will probably be a later show, he really started that new era. Bret Hart.
Yes.
Bret Hart really started that era for athletic guys. Macho Man kind of hinted it, but Bret really got the ball rolling, and then Shawn came and enforced it.
Yeah.
So, Bret and Rowdy, it was a very good match. Rowdy being cagey, using all his tricks that he's learned, and he finally gets him in a sleeper, and the way Bret pins him. No one had even thought about a pin like that in wrestling at that time. So
something from the dungeon.
Awesome match. Number 13.
Number 13, I got the British Bulldogs and the Hart Foundation. Pretty much, you know, great match. That's one of my favorites. I'll say this, you know, a point that he didn't make. This is where Stu Hart's dungeon, when you see Stampede Wrestling come and invade the WWE. You got, after Stu, not too long ago, Vince had bought out Stampede Wrestling. Said, all right, Stu said, I'll sell it to you, but look, you got to take 4 of my guys. You know, this is pretty much a family feud within the ring because, all right, Davey Boy, who people don't know, I'm sure you roundtable guys, if you guys know wrestling, I'm sure you know, Davey Boy was at that time the brother-in-law of Brett, and then
he was.
Yeah.
What?
Davey Boy?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you know, you married Diana. You knew that. Gotcha. Y'all thought y'all had something on Bear, didn't y'all? Yeah, so Davey Boy and Jim the Amber was Brett's brother-in-law also.
Get out of here.
Yeah, so you know.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yep. And then so you had the Hart Foundation. Jimmy Hart, Bret Hart, and Jim Neidhart, you know, taking on, and Dynamite Kid, you know, he was just great. You know, did you guys from the round table know that Dynamite and Davey Boy were cousins? Bet you ain't know that. So it was a family feud within a match at the greatest spectacle of sports entertainment history, WrestleMania. Number 12.
My number 12 match, I'll probably get a lot of arguments on this, but my number 12 match is going to be Shawn Michaels against Chris Jericho.
Ooh, good one.
On WrestleMania 19. And the reason why is it was a good match, awesome match. But by this point in time, Shawn Michaels, he's already established himself as a main eventer, you know, the icon, the showstopper, Mr. WrestleMania, all that. But you don't just see Chris Jericho wrestle more with Shawn Michaels style.
Yeah.
And even on the commentary, you hear Jerry Lawler say it's like wrestling each other.
Yeah. And
you know, and it was just classic stuff, seeing Chris Jericho do the HBK pose. And,
about the kick to, you know,
good
kick
little
to the
match.
Afterwards.
Good little match. On my list, number 12. I don't think that's a bad spot for it. Number 12 is a pretty
number
good
12
spot.
I got what he had is number 14, Flair Savage. You know, bottom line, he said it all. It's just one of my favorite matches. Number 11, what you got?
My number 11 match is The Rock versus Stone Cold at Mania.
Which
19.
one?
Mania 19.
Mania 19.
Mania 19. The Rock put Austin over in the 2 Manias before, and The Rock, you know, hey, I done everything. There's only one thing I haven't done, and that's beat Stone Cold, even though he beat him at Survivor Series.
There's always Act 3.
Yep. So, and just the psychology of the match, and you know, he had to give Austin rock bottom 3 times, and then he finally did it, and that kind of marked the end of Austin's run.
Yeah.
And you know, seeing him, Stone Cold laying in the ring, The Rock talking to him, telling him he loved him and thanked him for everything. So that was the best one.
Yeah, remember you said they told a story through that, you know, and The Rock coming back saying, you know, he couldn't beat him as the new Rock. He had to switch back to his old ways a little bit, you know. What number we at? Number
10, you ain't give your 11.
Yeah, 11. One of my favorite matches in WrestleMania, and I can remember watching this match, didn't want it to happen because I wanted these two to become the tag team champions at the Royal Rumble before this. This is Bret and Owen. Bret and Owen's Hart.
That's the Quebecers.
Yeah, you know, and I was so hurt. Bret Hart got injured, couldn't, you know, and Owen kicks him in the back. You know, very disappointing. But these two wrestling at WrestleMania, do you remember, let me think with your brain, you remember the coin toss? Now, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If Bret would have won the coin toss and fought Yokozuna first, who would have been Lex Luger's opponent?
I want to say it would have been.
And I give you this, it wouldn't have been nobody he quote unquote would have had a beef with.
No, it
So
would,
that-
I want to say it would have been Ludwig Borga.
No.
No. I'm thinking. I'm looking at the bracket.
I don't know.
Bret and Owen, Luger. I want to say I think it was
I'll give you a
Ludwig
hint.
Borga.
He wrestled at that WrestleMania in a very personal match.
I can't believe it. I'm stumped. Who was it?
Crush.
Nah, Crush.
You remember?
And Macho Man.
Yeah, and it would have been like Crush and Lex Luger. And I, you know, at the time, a little kid, WrestleMania 10, I think I was 8 years old, hoping, come on, don't let, nah,
Yeah,
come on.
looking back.
I didn't want Brett, I didn't want Brett Owens. But, obviously, this was the chance where the Rocket, the King of Hearts, Owen Hart, Blue Blazer.
I'm a black card, damn it!
Yeah. Got a chance to finally step out of the shadow of his brother.
Yeah,
so,
and again, like we was talking about it before, just the storytelling, he beats his big brother and he's...
But the way he beat him too,
he didn't cheat.
It was a good technical match.
He didn't cheat. And he beats his big brother and he's finally out the shadow, and then what does big brother go do at the end of the night?
Win the WWE Championship from the man he had lost it to from a year before.
Yeah, and it's like, you did it again. You did it again. I can't, you did it again. So, and they had a huge run throughout that whole year.
Oh, yeah, SummerSlam. Baltimore, they had a good cage match down here. No, just a regular title match. I believe that was it. Their last match was here in Baltimore. What you got for number 10? This is where it gets interesting, folks. You're gonna see a lot of similarities, but you're gonna see the top 10 great matches. Actually, we should say top 9 because neither one of us chose number 1. Like I said, Bear will explain that to you at the end of the segment. But Bear, give me number 10.
My number 10 match is Stone Cold Steve Austin's first win, WrestleMania 13, 14 against Shawn Michaels
in Boston.
The reason why this is number 10 is this ushered in the whole attitude.
Oh yeah, probably one of the greatest eras of wrestling.
Yeah, that's it. That's all that match was good for. It was unfortunate that Shawn got hurt, but by this point in time, as a wrestling fan, not a wrestling expert, I am a fan first. People forget that they are fans first. Mm-hmm. As a wrestling fan, Shawn Michaels at that time, to me, was getting just a little bit obnoxious with that whole DX stuff. And,
most definitely.
And pulling out his pants. And I mean, some of it was funny. But by this time, Stone Cold had built him up. And he was the next guy. He was the guy. And I think Shawn did a great job, making sure he made it to the match and delivering a good match. But yeah, that's number 10 on my match. Only because, like I said, it ushered in that whole era.
Yeah. Number 10, which in my opinion probably should have been a one-on-one, but it's a triple threat match. World heavyweight title. Yes, it tells a story, but it was also, in my opinion, was a good match. That is Chris Benoit, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels. Personally, I would have rather seen Chris Benoit and Triple H. Why you have Shawn Michaels in there behooves me, but so be it. The match was pretty good. It was you had the best technical wrestler in there.
Which was Triple H.
Going against the Game. And, it was just overall, to me it was a good match. Triple H finally, Chris Benoit finally, after the time in WCW when he won the title, then Arn Anderson said he had to take it away and I believe give it back to Sid. And then he beat The Rock at Fully Loaded 2000, which didn't count for whatever reason. Then he won at Unforgiven 2000, but finally Triple H tapped out. Shawn Michaels couldn't do nothing about it, and it was over. So that was, my number 10.
Pretty good.
Yeah, what you got for 9?
9. Actually, I thought for number 9 I had it on the Express, but now that I look at it, I don't. My number 9 match was probably the most famous match in Stone Cold's life. Bret Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, WrestleMania 13.
Oh yeah.
That I Quit match where no one said I quit. It should have been whoever passed off first match. But it just, and again, 20-some years, I started 6 and I'll be 30, 20 plus years looking at wrestling. It was always cut and dry. You cheered for this person, you booed this person.
Bingo.
This match here, Bret Hart walked in and he was cheered and, pink and black, Stone Cold. he booed and somewhere in the match, no one knows where it happened in the match, but somewhere in the match, you know, Hitman walks out and he's booed and all this cheered.
And you know, this match says something because I think this is around the first time in my wrestling fan career in which I started rolling with the heels, because I was a diehard Bret Hart fan, you know. And after that,
I was too.
You know, after that, it was pink and black, forget America, go Canada. You know, I know it's kind of off the subject, but remember the match was it Montreal or out Calgary when they fought and the whole building shook.
Calgary Stampede.
The Calgary Stampede when the whole building shook. If you know what I'm talking about, most of your wrestling roundtable jerks don't know what I'm talking about. So it was the Hart Foundation and you know, Bret, Owen, British Bulldog, and Jim the Anvil Neidhart taking on
Ron Pillman.
Pillman was in the match. Yeah, you know. Y'all didn't know that Pillman actually grew up in the dungeon in which they went ahead and trained him and was extra hard on because he was a football player. But we're not going to get into that. That'll be for a later show. Now, like I said, no, it's off subject, off color, whatever you want to call it. But, you know, this was, like I said, this match was the first time in which, me personally, I became a heel.
Now, let me ask you since you brought up the heel thing, I need to know who you was a heel for. Were you a heel for Bret Hart, or were you a heel for Stone Cold? Because when Stone Cold went north of the border, he was a heel.
You're right.
When Bret Hart came south into America, he was a heel. So
well, I should say that.
You know,
and I should rephrase that. You're right. That was the first time that I rolled with a wrestler, regardless of which side of the fence they was on. Because when Savage was growing up, when Savage was a heel, I didn't like him, but when he became a face, I liked him. When Flair became a face, I liked him, but when he became a heel, I didn't like him. So that was the.
So you mean Bret Hart? When Bret Hart took on that heel persona,
I stayed with him,
okay,
as opposed to disliking. It never in my wrestling career can I remember rooting against Bret. Maybe once, and that was against Sting, but for the most part, I wasn't rooting against him. It was just wanting to see Sting win that particular match. But you know, but that's not even the same Bret, the Hitman Hart that WCW won. But you know, I'm gonna get back to this list. What was we at? I just got excited when you talk about the Hitman.
Well, I think we're
Number eight. No, because I didn't get my number 9. That's what we went. You gave your number.
Oh yeah, okay.
My number 9, well, it's just simple. Randy Savage and Warrior, you know. No need to explain it. Bear explained it great, but that's just why it falls at number 9. You can go on your number 8.
My number 8, I tell you, if I had more, or these matches from 8 to 2 weren't so good, this probably would have been high on the list, but this was just a good match, and that was Kurt Angle against Shawn Michaels. WrestleMania 21.
Yeah.
That was just a good match because it was one of those matches you didn't know who was going to win.
Mm-hmm.
Even as somebody who ain't a fan of wrestling, or you have those people who say, "Oh, wrestling's fake and wrestling's this," you know, to the jaded person. I honestly believe that would be one match they would watch.
Oh yeah, and you know another thing about that match was Shawn Michaels kept going in. I'm Mr. WrestleMania. I'm Mr. This. I'm that. Kurt Angle. I'm the technical wrestler. I'll beat you down.
Yeah,
so it was kind of a shock, you know, when he put him in that ankle lock.
Right.
And Michaels, I give credit to Shawn Michaels. I'm not the biggest Shawn Michaels fan, but I give credit where credit's due. I am a fan. He stayed in that ankle lock a long time before it was just like I can't take it anymore.
If my memory serves me right, I think that's the first time at a WrestleMania where Shawn Michaels actually tapped.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Not the first time in his career he tapped, but you know, he actually tapped and lost the match. Let me put it that way. Mm-hmm. Because somebody out there is going to say, well, he was in the sharpshooter at 12, but he didn't give up. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it was just one of those matches where they were both built up. Mr. WrestleMania, Olympic gold medalists, both of them were former champs. Both of them were really, really, really athletic guys.
It was one of them things where we want to outdo each other.
Yeah. So, just a good match. And like you said, him and that ankle lock. It's a good match.
My number 8 I had was the triangle ladder match, triangle tag team ladder match.
But the stunt guys.
I mean, you know, what credits do you got? We got the Attitude Era, we got the post Attitude Era, and the pre Attitude Era. You know, this is probably one of the better matches in the Attitude Era. Edge and Christian, Hardy Boys, and Dudley Boys. Me personally, I like the match because Edge and Christian were my favorite tag team at that time. And it seemed,
it was a flash photography.
and it just seemed like they could just never win. They could just never get the tag title. So here, you know, they finally got the opportunity. They won the tag belts. You know, you got to see Jeff Hardy jump off the do the swanton in the middle of the aisle. And that was one of your ooh and ahs. There was a lot of oohs and ahs. The 3D off the, well, not the 3D, but the Bubba Cutter, I believe, off the ladder. You know, it was a lot of good segments in this match, so that's why it's in my number 8 and it makes the top 10 list. Number 7.
My number 7 match was a match that you already talked about, and I'm not going to dwell on it too much, and that was Bret North at WrestleMania 10. And we done sat there and said everything. Me personally, I am an older brother. And, you know, I know what it's like to, you know, your little brother gets that one and then you do something to take away that moment from him. So that kind of, very good technical match. I think for that time, what, WrestleMania 10 was in 90? I believe it was.
WrestleMania
10 was in what, 95? I think for that time.
No, 94, I'm sorry.
94? Yeah, somewhere around that time. You know, I think for that time, looking back on it now, you had no idea Owen was going to win that match. You did. Right. You didn't have no idea Owen was going to win that match.
From a fan's
perspective. And Bret really went out his way to say, you know, yes, you know, I'm a good wrestler, but look at my little brother too.
Yeah.
My little brother. He performed in a way to where Owen could really turn. For that year, Owen was that top heel.
Oh, most definitely.
For that year, and
it's
Bret
just a shame he never got a chance to win the belt.
Yeah.
But, you know, that was Owens actually.
Owen for that year. I mean.
Yeah, you know. And before that, if you remember, he wrestled as a, you know, a very undercard, probably forgotten match when he wrestled at WrestleMania 8. I can't remember who he was fighting.
Skinner.
Yeah, you know, people don't remember that. That was when he was a Rocket.
3 minutes long.
Yeah, he wore the green tights.
Yeah, look like pajamas.
Yeah.
Him and Coco be weird, high energy. Yeah.
Yeah. What we at? Number my 7. My number 7. You know, I already blowing up Bret and Stone Cold. This is number 6.
My number 6. Another classic match. I think you talked about it a little earlier in your countdown. It was Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle. Enough said.
Yeah.
Enough said. How was the purpose of it? Yeah. Enough said.
You know, my number 6, right, is one of the first ladder matches for the belts at WrestleMania, which was Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels. Now, compared to ladder matches nowadays, you probably look at this ladder match like, ew, that wasn't that great. But at that time, in that era, first of all, if you remember the build-up, Shawn Michaels getting suspended, taking the belt from with him. What did he get? I forgot what he got suspended for.
I know.
What was it?
He got suspended because they found traces of steroids in his urine, and that was one of the first times where him and Vince really started butting heads. You know, well, we found it in there, and he's like, well, I had a lot of vices. I remember him saying this on his DVD, Heartbreaking Triumph. If y'all ain't got it, you need to go get it. It's a very good DVD.
Oh, yeah.
Very good DVD. Very good DVD. But he talks about that on there, and they said, well, we want you to send the belt back. He started, that kind of like started that whole Defiant Click thing, and then they have a battle royal. And,
Razor gets it was the last two. Yeah, it was down to the last two. Him and the model, Rick Martel, on Monday Night Raw, at the end of that night, fought for the belt. If I'm not mistaken, it was the next week. Razor's Edge beats and becomes Intercontinental Champion. And once he became Intercontinental Champion, you know, then Shawn Michaels comes back, you know, well, that bogus belt that Razor Ramon had, yo, Chico, I'm the bad guy. So they raised both belts. And that's what made, I think it still would have been a good match, but the fact that you had going after 2 belts, you know, made it an even better match, you know. And in fact, we had Diesel out there who got put away because he tried to interfere. Overall, just a good match. A lot of highlights. Shawn jumping off. You know, Shawn. The way it ended was incredible. Shawn getting stuck in between the ropes and gliding raising that really sold. Just a great match.
And just to add a little bit on what you were saying about the match, I've always felt, and I might be wrong, but Shawn Michaels' friends, he worked with Bell.
Oh, yeah.
And Bob Razor being one of his friends, even from when they was back in the AWA and over there in Kansas City, you know, that I knew they trust each other a lot.
Yeah.
And they, like I said, they were all friends. So, but yeah, Razor was in the match, but honestly, you could have probably put anybody in that match with Shawn, and Shawn would have had a match with a ladder, and it still would have been a good ladder match.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that rolls right in to my number 5, which is Shawn Michaels against Razor at WrestleMania 10.
Yeah,
so,
my number 5 is Austin and The Rock, and
at WrestleMania
15.
15.
And I'm gonna say why. First of all, not the first time they fought each other. Let's get that right. Let's get that straight, because they fought each other for the Intercontinental title. But the first time they fought each other for the WWE Championship. Now, you talking? This was built. Honestly, you know, Stone Cold had been making a run for his championship after what was it? When he came back around after he had his little beef with the Undertaker at Rock Bottom, and he buried the Undertaker alive or whatever. Then, you know, he went to the Royal Rumble. The obstacle, Vince McMahon's in the Royal Rumble. What was Austin, number 30? No, he was later in it. Oh, Austin was early. Whenever he came in, Austin was in the Royal Rumble. He got hurt, and then he came back out there. Yeah, because they beat him up. And he had a $100,000 bounty on his head, if you remember. Came back. He lost. He lost the Rumble to McMahon. Afterwards, you know,
St. Valentine's
Day Massacre. Him and Vince, steel cage match. Big Show comes in, throws him out, throws him through the cage. Austin then is awarded the title shot at WrestleMania, and him and The Rock just had great beef. Everybody remembers the beer bath. It was nothing like that. And
they had good chemistry.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They had real good chemistry.
And so that match lived up to the build-up, and it lived up to the hype. And I just personally, you know, I agree with, actually, all 3 of the matches at the WrestleManias were good, but to me, this was a top 5 WrestleMania match.
Can you make sure you edit that out?
Okay. I mean, but I think that's good for the fans. Let them know we still fans as well as wrestling analysts. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the encyclopedia of wrestling.
I ain't gonna say all that, but I think I can rival anyone that sits at a round table.
What you got for
number 4? Number 4, like I said, you know, during this time, big, overly muscular guys were in the picture. Hogan, Andre, King Kong, Hillbilly Jim. I can remember being a kid and Parts Unknown Merlin and Hulk Hogan Rock and Roll Wrestling. I mean, even Coco Beware looked big. This match kind of changed all that. This match kind of, it was athletically performed.
Okay.
It wasn't 15 minutes and then 7 minutes of posing. You know, it wasn't about doing a leg drop and the crowd going crazy, or, you know, King Kong Bundy jumping on somebody and the crowd going crazy. This match to me started the Chris Jerichos, the Benoits, the Angles, the Shawn Michaels, it started all of that, and it would be, in my opinion, you know, more so than Hulk and Andre at Mania 3. You got to have this match on your list, and that match is Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat. The build-up was good. He comes off with the bell and jams it in his throat, and he's out. And then Steamboat comes back, and again, the promos, and then the match was good. You Just two guys who knew wrestling. And Macho Man don't get a lot of credit, but Macho Man had very good psychology when it came to getting the crowd involved. And he was hated at that time.
Oh yeah.
He was hated. He was more so hated when he was down south, working down there with his brother and Jerry Lawler and all them, you know.
People don't know about his brother.
He was crazier down then. I mean, me and my uncle, we sat up here and talked about, you know, they see Randy Savage with the, you know, the sunglasses and the superstar Billy Graham kind of outfit. You know, y'all need to check out Randy Savage back in the 70s, you know.
Yeah.
Round table.
His number...
But yeah, number 4.
His number 4 is actually my number 3, and, you know... Bottom line, just being a wrestling fan, it was just a great wrestling match.
Great wrestling match.
I can't say it no better.
Just a great wrestling
since his number 4 was my number 3, I'm going to go ahead and read my number 4 and then let him elaborate on his number 3, which was 60-minute, which turned into an overtime, 1 fall to a finish. Iron Man match between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels.
That's my number 3.
This match was where the two men could prove, you know, the two hardest workers in the game at that time. You know, the promos, who outdid who. You saw workouts. You didn't see too much beefing because you couldn't really do it. I mean, you could have, but they were faces, you know. So it was more so of athleticism. And then, you know, they went 60 long minutes. Shawn just would not tap to the sharpshooter, and you know the match was pretty much over.
Neither one of them wanted to give up a fall to the other in that match.
Exactly, and then when you know Gorilla Monsoon comes out and says, "Look, bottom line, we're going to overtime." You know, Bret comes back in the ring. I wish.
And to elaborate a little bit more on that, that was the match that started everything that followed between Bret and Shawn.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look in that match, I can remember like Bret coming off the top or Bret throwing Shawn into the corner and he'd kick him. But there was a little bit more oomph on those kicks when he was kicking Bret Hart.
Yeah.
You know, so, and, you know, just little things. It was a good match, you know. Matter of fact, if the match had started when we was doing this, they'd still be fighting.
Right.
Yeah, so match.
Wait, before you say it, if you're a real wrestling fan, I'm gonna give you a chance to guess what we gonna say our number 2 match. You should already know. Wrestling past, present, future, whatever.
I can tell you one thing, it ain't Hogan and Andre.
No, it's not.
I'll take y'all time when y'all think about it a little bit.
Time's up.
Alright. On our list, and I will be willing, you know, I'm sure you're going to have this up on YouTube, so for anybody that wants to, you know, hear this and want to give your opinion,
please comment.
I'd be more than willing to sit and comment with you, you know.
And it's fun and games, wrestling fans, you know. I don't know about the wrestling jerk table, round jerks, round of jerk table.
Jerk.
Whatever you want.
Whatever.
You know,
but the number 2 match that we both agreed on, can I build it up a little bit?
Build it up, you know.
This match, had it had happened earlier, he would have never won. He would have never beat him.
Okay.
Remember, they fought 3 times before that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you remember the times that they fought, the first time they fought, it was a double disqualification. The second time they fought, you know, his brother turned on him. That's a clue. And then the third time they fought, his brother helped him again win. So you never really knew who could beat whom, but it was always built up that Shawn could run with him. Which leads me to my number 2 match, Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25. I want to elaborate more on this Shawn Michaels Undertaker match. And the reason why is, again, because Undertaker, he had good opponents. I'm not going to take that from him. But, you know, just the similarities, the differences in them.
Oh yeah.
The light against the dark, heaven against hell. You know, I remember them saying sometimes it's hell getting to heaven and all this. It was just a well done match, and Shawn, I think Undertaker needed that match, and it was a good match too, because if anyone paid attention to that match, you never saw Undertaker get upset. That was the first match you ever saw, and I remember him giving him the last ride, and then he pinning him, and he kicks on, and Shawn Michaels, Undertaker's just going like this, because it really made you believe that, hey, maybe Shawn can't. I mean, maybe Undertaker can't beat Shawn. Shawn can beat the Undertaker. Shawn's going to take this streak, and it just was one chance. He went for it all in one move, and that kind of was enough. But it was the only match I've ever looked at in wrestling, being at my house, you know, looking at it, and when the match was over, I sat there.
Oh, yeah.
That was the first one, and it'll probably be the only one.
You know, that match, I can remember sitting in my homeboy's house. We had a WrestleMania party. And I'm sitting there with my nephew and my little cousin. You know, my homeboys, much older, they know pretty much wrestling. But you know, kids, what I love about watching wrestling with kids, they still watch it like we did. They don't look at it. And even my father, which I must give him credit, even though he knows, we know it's predetermined, but they still watch it as if it's not supposed to happen, or they don't know the outcome. And that's, you know, I sat back and I watched my little cousin, and he talked trash the whole ride on the way to go see this pay-per-view. And he kept saying Shawn Michaels is going to win. I said, no, he's not. Yes, he is. He can beat The Undertaker. He beat him before, because the Undertaker has never beaten Shawn and this, that, and other. And I just enjoyed the match, because a couple of times we went back and forth. I told you, he almost got him. I told you he was going to kick out. So it was, you know, it was heated tension, positive heated tension in the room. I'm sure anybody who watched wrestling or watched it with somebody went through that. And it was just like, okay, you know, when the match was over, most people was probably hoarse, because you was screaming like, either yes, he beat him, or no. But you know, Shawn Michaels,
kick outs.
Oh man!
I remember him getting hit with sweet chin music, and I'm like, oh my
coming,
God,
you know, within a second, you know. And it wasn't that animated that Hulk and Andre, when the referee, who is
Gorilla Monsoon's son, Joey Morella, God rest his soul, he died in a car accident shortly thereafter.
Right. Animated kind of had to stop the count when Andre fell on Hogan. No, it was none of that in this match. You know, it was true, you know, kick out, right, perfect timing. I mean, the match was just awesome, and that's why.
Like I said, and there was things in that match, and to kind of elaborate more on Shawn versus Taker, there was things in that match that hadn't been done up to that point. Like, I remember when Undertaker went over the rope, and for those that didn't know this, the cameraman that Undertaker fell on, that was actually Jimmy Snuka's son. He was supposed to be a part of Legacy, but it never worked out.
Right, I remember that.
That was Jimmy Snuka's son. And anyway, getting back to the match, you know, you kind of see Shawn, he's in the ring, he's hoping that Undertaker game. He would have took that win on a count out. Yeah. That had never been done before. Right. Everybody's like, you know, I want to beat him and take the streak. That never, he would have took that win on a count out, just to say, hey, I won.
Exactly.
I didn't, you know, beat him 1, 2, 3, but I did beat him. So there was a lot of things that they brought out that weren't done before. I saw a lot of moves, especially from Taker, that I haven't seen Taker do in a long time. The only thing I didn't understand about that match was Shawn put Undertaker in some leg move, and they called it the figure four. I'm like, how the blue hell is that a figure four? But
you know, it's funny because 2 years in a row they did the match, and both years they were the best matches on the card. I personally did not want to see them do it again, because I'm like, there's no way you can top that match, which they didn't.
No, they didn't.
But
no, they didn't.
You know, I wanted to put it on my list, but it was other matches, so it wouldn't have made sense to put it on there twice. The same thing with Austin and Rock's matches. But, you know, that second match was like, you knew going in, because And Shawn Michaels said himself that WWE did such a great job putting out my Journey DVD shortly before I'm about to my career match.
It was all over the, you know, for guys and, you know, wrestling fans that get all into that internet stuff and the rumors and the gossip and, you know.
And honestly, I had stopped looking at
over.
Yeah, I had stopped looking at that stuff because I didn't want that stuff to kind of ruin WrestleMania for me. I kind of wanted to have that same anxiousness.
Yeah, and I can understand that, but even to the storyline, you can kind of see it happening because he finally gets the tag belts with Triple H, something they never done before.
Yeah.
And they wound up dropping him to. I mean, he gets pinned by The Miz.
The Miz.
That would have never happened.
Right.
You know?
And
it was just kicking Theodore along. Theodore. They made it seem like that was that dark cloud hovering over his head, and when I knew that he was going to lose is he was talking to Undertaker, and that's when Undertaker's like, look, you know, I'll put the streak up, but you're going to put your career up. And, you know, he said, if I can't beat you, I don't have a career. Are you serious? This is Shawn Michaels we're talking about.
Right.
You know, it can be argued that he was Hulk Hogan's successor. When Hogan left what Hogan did for the 80s, he did for the 90s. I said it could be argued. I'm not saying it's true.
I know.
But, I mean,
I would have to argue that they split that one with him and Bret. But, you know.
It could be, but, you know, I'm just saying to say, you know, I don't have a career if I lose. I knew it. He was winding down. And like, that kind of took away from the second match.
But, you know, the good thing.
You knew he was going to lose.
Exactly. But the thing about the match, they did a great job selling it. Even with the Undertaker almost breaking his leg during that match, I was like, oh my goodness, this match is going to go. It's just going to suck. He's not going to be able to do half the stuff. Undertaker just fought through it. And, you know, they made it believable.
And it was also interesting, too, because, you know, it was like Shawn Michaels had hit him with everything he could hit him for. Undertaker didn't do it. And you know, Undertaker's like, stay down, stay down. And he gets up and he's like, go ahead.
That's like a slap in the face, you know.
Jumped in the and tombstoned him. So it told a good story because even at that point, that point kind of symbolically was his whole career.
Yeah.
You know, he still spit in the face. He still was defiant. And, you know, hopefully he won't do like Ric Flair did and, you know, he didn't even have a big send-off. The only person I remember coming out there was Undertaker, you know, tipping his hat, then Triple H. But hopefully, it was a good match. 25, I'm speaking of. I'm not talking about 26. 25 was a good match. I would have rather for him to go out with anyone else. I didn't really want there to be another one between them two.
Yeah.
But, you know.
The one thing they didn't make it believable was doing the same thing they did with Flair, was putting him in the Hall of Fame the night before.
Yeah, so, you know, 25, great match, good match. And, you know, as a fan, you couldn't help but enjoy that match.
Now,